Hello, this is Justin Seven with Sportsbookreview.com, and I'm here to discuss the dispute between a player and Sportsbetting.ag. Now, there are two different sports betting companies. Sportsbetting.com is owned by Win United and is not the subject of this dispute. This is only with Sportsbetting.ag, which services U.S. players. On September 11th, a player deposited $100 with sports betting, and when he was registering, he listed Texas as his state, but the rest of his information was correct. He's from Louisiana, but there was no Louisiana in the state dropdown. But he still used the correct zip code, the correct city, all his other information was accurate. He received a verification call the next day from a sports betting representative, and he gave the corrected information explaining that there was no Louisiana in the drop-down menu. And according to the player, the representative said, that's fine, it'll just limit the ways that we can pay you out. Now, sports betting could not locate this call. They didn't deny that it happened, but they were unable to produce it. And usually a sportsbook has recordings of all outgoing calls. Now, the player proceeded to go on a winning streak over the next couple weeks, and he turned his $100 into $16,000. When he requested a payout on October 4th and another payout on October 8th, they locked his account. He was later told that because he was playing from a prohibited state, that they were going to void all his bets and just return his deposit. Sports betting and I have gone back and forth. I think we have over 100 emails back and forth trying to discuss this, and also some very long discussions. And I'm trying to figure out, what is the right resolution to this, and what can be done to fix it. Now, sports betting's position was that the player committed fraud because he put the wrong state in. The player says he didn't commit fraud. I just thought it was a software glitch, and we corrected it as quickly as we can. Sports betting cited a rule that says we reserve the right to request updated or new documentation whenever it is deemed necessary. Payment will under no circumstances be processed and or approved if such documentation is inaccurate, misleading, incomplete, or not filed in a timely manner. So first they're trying to rely on this rule to say because he put the wrong state in, we're not going to pay him. Now, if you look at the rule closely, it was his sign-up information, not his documentation, that was incorrect. Now, if you accept the player's version of the facts and that he told the representative his new state, at that point, sports betting has waived any discrepancy. They wanted to close his account right then, that's fine. But when they continue to take wagers from him after he's provided this additional information, sports betting no longer has the option to go back and void these wagers and say, we didn't intend to take these. When I brought this point to them, that there was nothing wrong with his documentation, they then went to another tact. They said, in their rules, they say, we will restrict your access to our sites or use of products and services, not allowing anyone whose state is prohibited by law, as set out on Section 2, prohibition. So they were arguing if a state has a law against betting on sports, that they have the right to go back and void any wagers and kick the player out, return his deposit. Now, the problem with this is there is a law against some sort of gambling in almost every state in the United States. Technically, this rule could be used to void every single winning player's account. But by only using it when you have a winning player who wins a substantial amount, it's selective enforcement. So that's not really a reasonable rule on which they can rely. But going back to the main issue, did they know that this player was from Louisiana? First, they could have checked his credit card deposit where he had the correct zip code, which would go to LA. He told the CS rep. The phone number he had registered had an Louisiana area code, and Bossier City is in Louisiana, not Texas. So, if you just look at all the ways that they could know, sports betting, they should have known that this player was from Louisiana, and it's not reasonable, a month after the fact and after he's won and had his money at risk, to say, oops, we're not going to take your action, we're going to void your winnings. Now, is the player trying to defraud them? Fraud is a state of mind, and if you look at the player's actions, it doesn't look like there was any intent to defraud. Everything else he did was consistent with being a Louisiana player, and we couldn't get a copy of the recording, but he claims he told the representative he's from Louisiana. And when you have facts that you can't confirm or deny, generally, we're going to accept both parties' facts as accurate. Just like sports betting says they do not intend to take wagers from players in Louisiana, we accept that as true, but the question is, what do you do about it in this situation? Now, with all disputes between a player and a sportsbook, it's just a matter of contract law. The player entered a contract with the sportsbook and he expects to get paid on his winnings. The question is there a reasonable way for sports betting to void these wagers? If you allow sports betting to void it under these facts, Basically, they can void any winning player. They have a chance to free roll him, because the only people who are going to actually get caught playing from a prohibited state are those that make a withdrawal. So they don't pay any of the losers. Now, sports betting claims that they would refund any losing player from Louisiana if they later found this out. But again, how are they going to find that out if there's no, withdrawal? Now, the last issue is, sports betting, they're trying to comply with state law. And the way they're trying to do this is to go back and say it never happened. But, it did happen. You can't go back and undo what's been done. Now, you can correct this going forward and not allow this. And there are ways to prevent players from Louisiana from successfully registering. If you look at how Bovada does it, in their drop-down menu, if you pick a state that's prohibited, it lets you register, and then it says, nope, we can't have you play from this state. Whereas the way sports betting does it, just by not listing the state and having no mention of it in the rules, no person could reasonably expect them to know that it's prohibited. So in this case, SBR recommended that sports betting pay the player. Sports betting has refused. We have ruled this, a fraudulent theft of $16,000. Justin7, sportsbookreview.com.